Greetings of the day. I am A. Kumar, working as an assistant professor in CSE department. Now I am starting my video lecture on iterative statements. See, iterative statements is one part in control flow statements. So here we have control flow statements to alter the execution. Actually, if you are not using control flow statements, the execution will start from the starting line. It will execute at least one time of each and every statement. Here, to alter the flow, we are using control flow statements like iterative statements and a selection statement and a jump statements. So actually, in selection statements, we are selecting a particular block of statements to execute or to not to execute, like that using if and else statements we are doing. Here, when coming to the iterative statements, here we are selecting a block of statements or bunch of statements to execute repeatedly. Means we are executing some statements for a certain number of times based on the condition. We are providing some conditions to execute the statement. Here, iterative statements also divided into three types. So one is a for loop, and the second one is while loop and do while loop. For loop, while loop and do while loop. Okay, so here for loop and while loop both we are calling as entry controlled loops, and our do while loop will works as a exit control loop, because here if you want to execute some set of statements, we are checking condition in for loop and while loop. So we are controlling, we are altering the entry of the loop. But in do while loop, what we are doing means already the execution will be there in loop statements, means it is executing. Now if you want to exit from the loop, you are checking for condition, means the condition is used to control the exit of a loop. So that's why we are calling it as a exit control loop, and these two statements as entry control loops. But for all three looping statements, commonly we are using three types of execution parts. Those are nothing but initialization, condition checking, and evaluation. Here evaluation is used to change the looping variable value. So looping variable is nothing but the variable which is affecting the iterations of a loop. For example, if you are taking for loop, here for loop also having these three statements, but the order will change in all three loops. Example here initialization and condition and evaluation. Here we are using evaluation to alter the value of looping variable. When coming to the for loop, first we are checking the we are executing the initialization statement, means we are passing some value to the looping variable. Next we are coming to the condition part. Here if the condition is satisfying, means if the condition is true, we are coming into the loop. For example, here you are having some statements, these statements will be executed. This is the third step in for loop. After completion of the execution of all the statements in loop, again we are going for evaluation, means it is the fourth step. Now the looping variable value will be altered, and again we are coming to the condition statement. Okay, so the same thing will be repeated. So up to this evaluate, from starting from the initialization up to the evaluation, we are taking as a one iteration. And if the condition is a failing, means, so if the condition is not satisfying, means the execution will comes out from the loop. So like that we are using the for loop to repeat some set of statements for a certain number of times. For example, if I want to display the values, so from 1 to 5, I can use the for loop like this. For, so I am taking as a looping variable and I am assigning the value as 1, and a condition I am checking like I less than or equals to 5, and evaluation is nothing but I plus plus. So here now I am displaying, so printf %d comma I. Now, as for our syntax of for loop, it will execute I equals to 1 first, and it will check for the condition, means 1 less than or equals to 5. So initially I am passing I as 1, and here I am checking like I less than or equals to 5, means 1 less than or equals to 5 condition is true, and it will enter into the loop. Here I am displaying the value of I, means printf %d comma I. So the I value will be displayed like 1. Okay, next again it will comes to the I plus plus. Now I will become 2. Again it will check for the condition 2 less than or equals to 5, condition is true. Next it will comes into the loop, printf %d comma I means it will displace 2. So it will repeats for 3, 4 and 5 also, means 5 less than or equals to 5, condition is true. So it will displace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, after execution of this statement, again it will comes for I plus plus, means I will become 6 now. And the condition will get fails here, 6 less than or equals to 5, condition will get fails. So now it will exit from the loop. The same scenario will be repeated for while loop also, but the placement of these three statements will vary here. For example, in the while loop also. So how the while loop will executes means, so I equals to 1, and in condition we are giving same thing, I less than or equals to 5. Here I am displaying the value of I, printf %d comma I, and I am making I as evaluation, I plus plus as the evaluation statement. And the same thing now, as for loop, it will execute in same manner, I less than or equals to 5. So first initial I is 1 and 1 less than or equals to 5, condition is the true, so it will displace I value. Next it will become 2, I will become 2 with the I plus plus. Now again it will checks for the condition 2 less than or equals to 5, condition is true, so again it will displays the I value as 2 here. Next I plus plus means I will become 3, 3 less than or equals to 5, condition is true, so again it will display the I value 3. Next I plus plus means I will become 4, 4 less than or equals to 5, condition is true, again it will display the I value 4. Next I plus plus means I will become 5, 5 less than or equals to 5, condition true, it will displace 5. Next I plus plus means I will become 6, 6 less than or equals to 5, condition is false. Means in while loop also the same order will follows like for loop. Initially it will execute the initialization statements and it will comes to the loop, condition, and if condition is true it is coming for the body of loop. This is the third step, and in the same way, in the same part the fourth step also executing, means evaluation statement, and again it will comes for the condition checking. So if condition is getting fails means it is exiting from the loop. So for loop and while loop there is no difference in flow of execution, but it will differ in the do while loop means. So here if a condition is a fails at a initial step means it will exit from the loop. For example, now I am initializing I value as 6 here instead of 1. Okay, so initially I am giving I value as 6, and the condition I am giving like I less than or equals to 5, means 6 less than or equals to 5. So condition is getting false in the first iteration itself, so it won't execute the body of loop. But if you are taking do while loop, it will execute at least once. For example, I am taking I equals to 6 and do, here I am displaying the I value, printf %d comma I, next I plus plus. Okay, here I am checking for the condition while I less than or equals to 5. So in this case, first it is initializing with C. So now I value is 6. Okay. Next, do means it will execute the lines here. It won't check for the condition initially. It will execute the lines. For example, printf %d comma I means it will display the 6 here, and I will become 7. Next, 7 less than or equals to 5, condition false, so it will exit from the loop. Means previously in while loop, here you are checking condition to enter into the loop. Here you are checking the condition to exit from the loop. That's why we are calling for loop and while loop as entry controlled loops and do while loop as exit controlled loop. This is about the iterative statements we are using in C as well as in Java also, the flow of execution, how we are altering with iterative statements. As of now, we discussed about iterative statements, 3 iterative statements like for loop, while loop and do while loop. But in addition to these 3, we have one more thing for each loop. For example, so if you are having array of elements, I am having some integer array int a equals to like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So for this array, if you want to display the elements from this array, actually we can use any loop, for loop or while loop or do while loop. If I am taking for loop, for example, for I equals to 0, I less than, so I don't have the length of array here, I can use a method like a dot length. Next I++. So with this I can display the values, especially it will be useful in Java programming language. If you are using Java programming language, we can use the for each loop. So this is a normal for loop. I can display like system dot out dot println of I. System dot println of I. So sorry, a of I. So if I want to display the array values here, I can use like this println a of I. So it will display the elements from a array. For example, for initially I is 0, 0 less than, automatically it will calculate the length of array, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 0 less than 5, condition is true. Next it will display a of 0. So like that it will repeats from 0 to 5, means it will display the values of array 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 like this. So this is a normal flow of a for loop. So if you want to display the elements from array, but we can use a for each loop instead of this for loop. Like the syntax is, so here you need not to initialize, you need not to calculate the length of array, so you need not to evaluate the looping variable also if you are using for each loop. So the syntax is like this. So for, so here, so the array values are there in a, the array name is a. Now I am taking one more variable, int I colon a. Next here I am displaying same value, system dot out dot println of I. Simply I am giving the looping variable in a output statement also. So now it will check the int I of a, means the value which is there in a array will be assigned to the I variable, means it is there. So 2 will be assigned to I. Next I am displaying 2. Next in the same way it will repeat for 4, 6, 8 and 10 also. Means if the values are there in array, those values will be assigned to I, and the condition automatically it will check whether it is returning true value or false value. If the values are there in array, means it will return the true. If the values are not there in array, means it will return the false. Like that it will repeat for all the values in array. Next it will calculate, same thing it will flow. So 2 will be displayed, next 4 will be displayed, next 6 will be assigned twice, 6 will be displayed, next 8 and 10 also it will assign to the I, and 10 will be displayed here. Now the values in array are completed. So next iteration, so nothing is there, means it will return the null to the I, means the values are not there, so it will return the null. So the null will be calculated as a false here, so it will be treated as a false, means a boolean false. Though if you have false condition, if you are passing for any loop, means it will out from the loop scope, so definitely it will comes out. Okay, so remaining statements which are there in after for loop will be executed. Like this for loop, for each loop will be useful for arrays. So normally array for loop, while loop, do while loop will be used for the altering the control or flow of the execution. In the same way here for each loop will be useful to execute or to repeat the operations for arrays especially. So you need not to initialize, or you need not to calculate the length of array, or you need not to increment or decrement the array variable, sorry, looping variable here. Automatically it will takes up to the elements are there in the array. So like that for each loop will be executed. So this is also a type of iterative statement, especially which will be useful in Java, C, Python, like object oriented programming languages. Thank you.